Niga, Dakwadoa, Cara Cowan Watts. Hello, everyone. This is Cara Cowan Watts with Cherokee 411. Today, we're here with Cherokee Nation citizen Jan Edwards, who has the Paving the Way Foundation. And before we learn more about her incredible work with the Paving the Way Foundation out there in our community, fighting to protect our youth and actually all of us and our families, we want to hear from Jan. Welcome, Jan, to Cherokee 411, Lehlesti. And we want to hear from you about who you are as a Cherokee so they know who you are.
Okay.
And then we're going to dig into your professional life and your work with your foundation. So tell us
Great.
who you are.
Sure. I was adopted out of the tribe when I was 3 days old. I am from the Quinton side of the family, of the tribe, and a lot of people probably know Jay Quinton. He's my uncle. Cordy was my mom, and I reconnected with my tribal birth family about 6 years ago, about 6, 7 years ago. And it's been really great learning about not only my family history, but our tribe. And I didn't find out, and somewhere along the way when my parents shared with me, because I always knew I was adopted, that was never some kind of secret. And I knew it was Cherokee Indian. That was all I knew. Okay. And when my mom, right, that raised me passed away, I started digging a little bit more because I really did want to understand. Because when my mom died, I was an orphan, nobody else. And I know there's some family out there, right, that I might look like, and they might still be around, and hopefully they want to see me. So I'll never forget the day I called Cordy because I had gone through an adoption website and they got me her name, and I had my best friend call her. And she, was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's really interesting. And then she called Jay and said, Jay, this is my name. This is who I'm calling for. This is Cordy's daughter. And, she'd love to connect with her if that's okay with her. And so it took me a while to finally call her when I did. So I got to meet my sister. I have an older sister and older brother, and Jalora and Lee. And so, trying to fly back and forth from Florida, and Tahlequah is not exactly a convenient place to get to, right?
Yes.
So I finally talked to her ironically on December 12th, which was her birthday, 2017, I think. She's like, this is the best birthday present ever. We talked for like an hour. It was really great, right? And then I flew out and met a lot of the family. And then I brought my daughter out and I got her enrolled, because and so getting to know the family over time, some of the history. And apparently, according to Jay's wife, Kathy, I am we're related to Chief Dragging Canoe and the Carolinas. It was one of the very first chiefs, or the very last chief actually, to stand against the colonial invasion and never left. They dispersed out until, and they weren't going to go find them because I know who we are. And, and learning our lineage that my great 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 grandmother walked the Trail of Tears. And I got to tell you, um, I'll never forget sharing that with my daughter a long time ago. And she's like, Mom, I don't understand. And I said, well, so we went and found a book and it was like 2.5 pages. And she sat there literally sobbing, right? Tears are streaming down her eyes. And nobody really wants to talk about the Trail of Tears. And when I did Ancestry, so I went all the way back on my Cherokee side, it was really interesting and sad and heartbreaking because there's so many places on that list. It's like lost on the trail, lost on the trail, lost on the trail. And so there's a heartbreak that I don't think any of us really get over, and we don't understand why we're sad sometimes, but I think that's part of it, lost futures. But I also think about the resilience of the families that made it out to Oklahoma, the families that created something there. And the Phoenix Rising paper, I have a picture of it in my office because that's what we are, really, is Cherokees. So having, really learning some of that part of my history is fascinating to me. And then learning about my mom, who apparently had her and I think a couple of her siblings. I don't know the exact details, and I apologize for that, but I know that she was taken to the Catholic schools several times. She kept running away. She wanted to go home. So those wounds and those scars are still, inside our family. And we know people, they keep unearthing graves of children, right? Um, and I'm very clear why she adopted me out of the tribe. Or, there's it at the time it wasn't really safe, in our family. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful, one, that she adopted me out, and I'm grateful too that she allowed me to loop back in and get to know my Cherokee family. Right. And then I found out later that Chad Smith, I'm related to Chad Smith, who is a chief of the tribe, right? I'm related to you. We're cousins. And you're gonna be chief of the tribe if I have anything to say about it. Um, and just really coming back and getting to learn some of the history and why I am the way I am. Because I think it's interesting that, Cordy was very, she was driven and determined. And my mom, right, Anne, and they were both about the same size. Same thing, driven and determined. So I'm clear I ended up being how I ended up being because I came from not only lineage of warriors and leaders and people fighting for justice, but I was raised in that same environment of just raw dog determination. My mom was 4'8". So you can only imagine the things she had to do to survive in the 40s and 50s and 60s as a little itty bitty woman in the medical realm. So I am thankful and grateful that I get to bring both worlds. And I think that's the other thing that makes me really unique is I know I present white. I'm very clear about that. But then when I'm on the nation, I don't, which is interesting to me. Because there was the first time I took my daughter to the powwow, she said, she's like, Mom, it's the first time I couldn't find you because there were so many people that look like me. Right? So there's a little bit of that comfort of being in an environment where you're just native, like just who you are, and everywhere else, people either think I'm Greek, Jewish, or Italian. And so when I say what I am, it's like, I didn't even, I'm like, I know it's okay. And so then it's really cool because it starts a conversation for me. Some people are like, aren't you offended? I'm like, no, people are curious, right? I have no problem sharing with people my history. So it gives me a unique view and it gives me unique positioning out here in the world as well, because, we'll get to my foundation in a minute, because when I train, we're mostly in Title I schools. So the kids I'm working with have similar experiences as kids do on tribal lands. And I get to share that my great great grandmother walked the Trail of Tears, right? And it removes whatever kind of bias there was because they're thinking, why is this old white lady up here talking to me? And I'm like, and I can hear it. I can hear the unsaid. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just address it, right? And they're all like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that. And I'm like, look, you were thinking it, and I got stuff I got to deliver to you. So if you can't hear what I'm saying, we got to get that out of the way. So it's really interesting having my DNA be on both cultures and learning about more about my Cherokee culture has been really, really interesting. I've got several books now that I get to read and just really learn culturally and who we are and what we're about. And the thing that I cherish the most is not only were we the largest tribe, but we're the first tribe that had an alphabet, we're the first tribe that had a newspaper, and we're the first tribe that I think attempted to figure out how are we going to do this? How are we going to work with these people that are taking over? Like, how are we going to do this so we can still survive? How are we going to do this so we have stories to tell? How are we going to do this? And I think that takes a lot of grit, and I think it takes a lot of intellect to be able to stand back, not be angry. You can still have those feelings, but be like, look, we got to figure something out so we're still here thousands of years from now. And I think our tribe has done well at that. I think we can get better. But I think that's from the, from the history I've read, we've always tried to be, we've always tried to be that bridge for a lot of other tribes too. Listen to stories about the Creeks and the Choctaw and, you know, it's like I don't really want to go to war with you, but okay, if you're come in and harm my people, guess what? Now we're at war. So it's really trying to coalesce and create an environment so that all can thrive.
I love this. So I think the first time I got to meet you was I saw Uncle Jay.
Hmm.
I call him Uncle Jay because I remember when Chief Chad Smith was in office, Uncle
Yeah.
Jay held all of us accountable as he does everyone still today.
Yes.
And so I love Uncle Jay when he's being mouthy or not. And so, like, and I would say that to him in person. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But I saw him at Cherokee National Holiday, and I'm going to
Mhm.
guess, was that your first time when I
No,
met
no, I
you?
think that was my second or that was my second or third. Yeah.
Okay. And so, um, very good. But that was when I think I met you the first time,
Mhm.
and I appreciate the connection. And Jay was so proud of you and the work you have been doing. And then we started talking about that. And so this is exciting. So people may know how you're related to them now. And I think that's important
Yes,
in our storytelling we're doing.
I do too.
Yes. And so let's dive in. Talk to us about Paving the Way Foundation. How
Sure.
did you get into this work? What is the work? What is your foundation? Is this your foundation? Like, how is it that you do stuff? And then once people hear they're going to want to get engaged, how do they
Sure.
learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. So, way back in 2013, I was invited to the Get Health Summit at the UN. And I went and, just like we met at Cherokee National Holiday, you run into people and then you stay connected. I met this extraordinary man, Dr. Mahari. He works, and he was either out of Kent or Vanderbilt, but he runs a 501(c)(3) that's called People to People, and he gathers the diaspora of Ethiopia to raise funds to help the orphans in Ethiopia. So we met, we exchanged cards, we exchanged all kinds of stuff, emails, phone numbers, and because I was working for an organization at the time that had a vision screener that was real clear could make a difference in underdeveloped countries. And so, um, we're emailing back and forth, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to, show you this device and whatever. And he says, yeah, he goes, I love that, Jan. He said, but I'm putting together a trip to Ethiopia. He goes, so, can we talk when I get back? I'm like, of course, have a great time, send me pictures, it's like whatever. I totally get it. People are doing business. And he sends me an email right back and says, do you want to go? Not
Wow.
not every day you get invited to Ethiopia. So I went. And it was there that I witnessed human trafficking for the very first time. And it was we were just coming out of some traffic, and it was two older men and two younger girls, and it just didn't feel right. That feeling you have it's like something's off. When I got to my sponsor's house, I shared with him, what I saw. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's human trafficking. Now, remember, this is 2013. So this is before R. Kelly, Epstein, Diddy, Maxwell, Jean-Luc, Virginia Giuffre's book that's just been out. Okay, this is before any of this. And I remember looking at him going, wait, what are you talking about? And he said, Jan, we have 4.5 million orphans in Ethiopia. We're the number one source of human trafficking into the Middle East. And my head whirled because I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I said, hang on a second. I said, are you telling me people are selling people? Because I couldn't get it. In my head, I'm like 1865, thought we were all done with that. Pretty sure we had the Emancipation Proclamation. We're not doing that anymore. He looks at me and like with just this look on his face, he goes, Jan, this is a $150 billion industry. Where you been? I go, Orlando, happiest place on earth, right? We had Disney here. They don't talk about this stuff here. And that's when God laid it on my heart. And I came home and I did 2 years of market research. My background, I worked for a Fortune 500 telecommunications company for most of my career. And so I'm a business person. You don't open any market, you don't do anything without doing any research. So I did market research for 2 years, talked to anybody and everybody that would talk to me about this whole trafficking thing, all while, raising my daughter and taking care of my aging mom. And so my mom passed in 2025. I wrote and produced an award-winning film called Trapped in the Trade. They can see the trailer, they can't see the film. I won't show that. And created a curriculum to educate kids about what's actually happening on this thing and on this thing that we're on. Because there are predators targeting our children online. Trafficking used to be focused mostly in person, right? They'd meet people out at, bars or restaurants or fast food places or when they run away from school or whatever that was, and someone would come along and scoop them up and off you go. Well, the past 10 years, it's accelerated to this thing. 90% of trafficking starts online, starts on social media, starts on video game platforms. And people don't understand that. And our kids, whose prefrontal cortex is not fully developed yet, think they're talking to a real person who really, really, really cares. Our kids are so lonely since the pandemic. Our kids are just lonely and isolated and alone. And this is a really easy way to connect. And they're right. We have Facebook friends, right? We talk on Facebook. So there is some good that happens inside of this, but when there are no guardrails for our children, it's really easy for predators to slip in. So we created a curriculum and we go into schools. We work with after school programs. We work with churches. Really, anybody that will let us stand in front of people to talk to them about this, we will. Because our kids are super savvy about what's happening online, but they don't understand because their brain's not developed yet. They don't have the precognition to fully grasp that you don't get invited to go to LA to try out for a show. I have friends in the media business. I have friends that do that for a living. No one's called and said they'll pay for an airline ticket. Okay. Um, and now with the advent of AI and bots, they're not even talking to a person. They're talking to a thing. And they
So
don't.
they've outsourced the initial relationship building and sorting through to AI even.
Yes. Yes.
That was right to
70,
me, but I hadn't even pondered that.
72% of our kids have an AI. You got to look at me, Kara. Look at me, friend. They have 72% of our kids have an AI friend online. They don't, because if you think about it, what AI is designed to regurgitate. Okay. So if I say I've had a bad day, it's going to ask me what happened, and then I'm going to tell it, and then I'm going to say, well, my friend Susie or my friend Bobby, they did this and this and this. They're going to be like, well, that was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. You're right. So you have zero, it's all giving you information that you want to make you right. So there's no ability to have any kind of discourse with anyone because if I'm trained, I'm always right, and your global you is always wrong. How are we ever going to have a conversation about something we disagree on without somebody going, oop, delete, 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 delete. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm going to delete you. And it's also blurring the lines of intimacy. Very quickly, these AI tools are sending things to our children that children should not be seeing or talking about. The increase of sexual interaction between these AI environments and our kids, it's incredible. So the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children puts out great data. And they did a blog, I think it was like in September. There's been an increase of AI generated child sexual abuse material of 9,238% in the past 8 months. 9,000. So you can see why I'm a little like, I want to talk to everybody because
And
parents
I
need to.
don't know that we've passed any laws. I don't know that any three of the Cherokee tribes have passed any laws that actually pertain to predators a lot of
Mhm.
times. I think Eastern Band may have the most advanced.
Yeah.
Um, and then, just the progression, security issues,
All of
predators,
it,
trafficking. Yeah.
all of it, all of it. And in the so this is why, parents need to understand what our kids are up against. They do. Um, our kids need to understand who's talking to them or what's talking to them so they can learn how to interact with it. And that's what we teach our kids. That's exactly what we teach our kids is we need our kids to not to be kids. And it's interesting because several states have passed no cell phones in the schools and the behavior has altered. Kids are actually talking to each other. They're actually making eye contact. Things that weren't happening for the past 5 years. Um, I will say that the state of Florida is very committed to all of this, and we just passed an anti-grooming law that if an adult shares a non-consensual intimate image of a child, it's a felony. And then federally, we've passed a bill called the Take It Down Act. And it does the same thing at a federal level. And even the threat of if you don't do this, I'm going to share this picture is a felony. So we're the AI is moving so quickly and we have no guardrails. And I think AI is cool technology when used in the right forms. But as we know, we've already seen it on social media. We have no guardrails up for our kids on social media. They're trying to put stuff in faster, but kids work their way around it. I think probably one of the most powerful laws, and it's so simple, is called the App Store Accountability Act. States can pass it at the state level. We've already had 3 states pass it, including Texas. We're looking at it here in Florida. They're trying to get it passed to the federal level that makes every single app on the App Store, whether regardless of what phone, has to be rated 18 plus because there are Notify apps on the Apple App Store that's rated 4 plus.
Well, Cherokee Nation citizen State Senator Ali Seyfried passed the no cell phones in schools, and she's my state senator. So I will make sure and send this interview to her for consideration for the next one.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I know you're an at-large citizen in Florida, so I'm glad when you get to come home because then we get to visit more. Because a conversation in person, to your point, is always better. Not just these crazy circumstances, but just in general.
Yes.
But lieutenant governor, he's a state senator, but he's a candidate for lieutenant governor, and he is not Indian. His name's Daryl Weaver, and we were in Leadership Oklahoma class in 2010 together, class 23. And he was head of Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics at that point. And we had quickly bonded, had early discussions, and because of how Oklahoma is situated with all our highways like I-35 and 44, 412, all of that coming in across roads in the United States, it's not just high drug traffic, but high human trafficking. And that was always on his agenda to address these issues. So I'll be sending the interview to both him and Senator Seyfried.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, and we can send them copies of the bills. They're already out, but it's easier to write a bill when you've got a framework.
Oh yeah.
And that it's passed in other states because that's a lot of times because I advocate up in DC and I do some advocating up in Tallahassee. They always want to know who else. Who else has co-sponsored it? What other state has passed it? Who else is supporting? It's nobody wants to be the first, which I find fascinating. But in a lot of states, Texas has passed some really great pieces of legislation. South Dakota has passed a no CSAM, no AI generated CSAM bill, right? So a lot of states have passed some great legislation.
Don't work in this every day. What does CSAM stand for?
Child sexual abuse material.
Okay. Some of the cases that have been coming out locally, whether they're Native people or non-Native, and I don't know who the victims are Native, our news articles aren't clarifying these things for us.
Right.
I think it should have been standard. I don't know why they're not, but there was an article out of Pryor, Oklahoma, and it keeps getting updated, and it looks like that predator did some AI generated, and I don't know if that's AI generated with or without a real human. And I assume there has to be a real human maybe at the beginning,
All they need is your face. It's all they need. It's all they need.
And so what I'm hearing is those guardrails that somebody can't just take your photo, which all of us post these photos of kids
Mhm.
on Facebook, people in our family. Okay, this is very helpful. All right. So,
Yes, yes. And even if you cover their little face with the little hearts, they have the little hearts you
yeah,
put to cover their face. There are now AI apps out there that you can take the heart off and find the face. So I always coach our parents because we train kids, we train K through 12, we train college, and we train parents. We've trained safety resource officers here at the school system. We've, educated foster youth and foster parents. Because those are foster youth in particular are at greater risk because they're used to being um, moved around for money. And traffickers know this and they use that. They're like, the family's getting money. How about you make your own money? It's so insidious. The manipulation, the level of manipulation, and why this is so important, Kara, is because our kids are online anywhere from, 4 to 8 hours a day. These kids stay up late at night playing video games. They're on Snapchat, they're on TikTok, doom scrolling. And when they post something and their stuff isn't private, so I'm going to give your everybody a couple of actions. People can send you a DM. That's how it starts. I send a DM. Hey, I'm into soccer too. Oh, hey, I see you like this. Oh, hey, I see you're going to powwow. Oh, hey, I see you're a dancer. Oh, hey, I see you make earrings. Oh, hey, right. They find that connection. And our kids are so lonely and have no one to talk to about this kind of stuff. They don't want to talk to their parents. And their friends, going to think they're weird and talk about them. So who do you talk to? And so that's how the relationship starts. And it happens very quickly. It takes less than 17 minutes to entice a child to send an inappropriate picture to a stranger. That's how quickly these bonds are forming because our kids are so desperate
and
for
you said
connection.
17 minutes.
17 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are the top three things that parents and grandparents need to know or take action on?
Sure. The first thing is you got to understand that this is happening to your child. They're getting an average of
No
267
one's an
direct
exception, is
messages.
what I just heard.
No
Okay.
one, no one. Online exploitation, human trafficking knows no socioeconomic, demographic, or geographic boundary. You can live in the hoitiest toitiest places, or you can live in a trailer. Doesn't matter. Anyone can be a victim. Doesn't matter what melanin level you have either. Doesn't really matter. They do target natives because we can be made exotic looking. We can be Latin, we can be Filipino. If we're darker enough, we can be African American. That's why they target Native American Indians. We're a high, high, high percentage of target because of that, especially when our kids leave the nation and go to bigger cities. And there's also an increase of native on native trafficking. It used to be, the man camp guys would come over and it's not that anymore. They figured out that, you can make a lot of money when you sell a human being. So you got to have the conversation. And I know it's uncomfortable. We've got great resources on our website. We've got some great videos on our social media pages. Go, sit your kids down in front of it. Everybody watch it together. So get yourself educated so you understand. Two, well, three things. One, turn off your location settings except for the normal things. I Find My Eye or, Life 360. Turn off your location settings on every single app. Turn on your privacy settings. Now, I know a lot of kids want to get out of wherever they are through baseball, sports, art, dancing, not a problem. They'll have Instagram pages or TikTok pages. Again, not a problem, but have your parents manage it. So your parents are going to interact with these people, not you or a stranger. The last thing is create a family safe word. It only takes 4 seconds of audio. They only need one picture and they can create you. And now imagine an elder getting a call, Grandma, 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 I'm in trouble. I need you to send me $5,000. Now, when we get, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, when we're confronted with something, your prefrontal cortex leaves the building. It's the amygdala that takes over. That's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So to have everybody just breathe, go, okay, Cara, I got it. You're in trouble. What's our family password? If that person on the other phone can't tell me the password, it's probably not you. So three things: turn off your location settings, turn on your privacy settings, create a family password. And we live in forests. I live by the ocean. Leave all your phones, all your electronics nowhere near you and go create a password. And because a lot of people speak Cherokee, create one in Cherokee, right? Create it in your native language. No one's going to know the answer to that. And it's a great way to keep you and the elders in our families safe because they take advantage of them all the time. So really, those are really simple things to do.
Yeah, and that's a good one just for all of the IT security
Mhm.
issues and the identification
Yeah,
theft and the elder stuff that's going on too.
for sure.
My own family has
Yeah.
action. So,
Mhm.
okay, I know that you're saying there's a ton of resources on your website, and that
Yes.
includes if there's legislation that's coming up
Mhm.
that's going to be voted on or needs to be passed in your state. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and federally. I'm a fan of federal legislation because then everybody kind of has to do it.
Yeah.
And I also, and when federal can't keep up, we go to state, right? So there's a piece of legislation that passed the House called the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act. And this is probably one of the most important pieces of legislation for survivors because if you're convicted of a crime while you're being trafficked at the federal level, you can't rent an apartment, you can't go to your child's school, you can't go on school field trips, you can't travel out of the country for a crime that you committed while someone was, figuratively pointing a gun at your head. So the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act provides expungement pathways for women and men that have been convicted of crimes that they were forced to do while they were under a trafficker's control.
So I'm going to reiterate that one of those things, key things that you said. So first of all, again, you're very serious. This impacts everyone, including our men, our
Absolutely.
boys. Um, we've started a murdered missing Cherokee peoples project here at Cherokee 411, and there's a lot of interviews and things in play right now that we're trying to get stories out. And what did surprise me, and it shouldn't have, in reality, is most of our stuff are our men. It's not
Mhm.
our women so far. Not that it doesn't happen to our women. I'm not saying that, but like in reality, for some reason, from a Cherokee, it's our men that are missing and murdered. And
Yes.
that has been very
Shocking.
shocking and disturbing on another level that I'm just confused about. So we're
Yeah.
still processing that. So
Mhm.
don't think that just because you have boys, you're getting off easy.
Well, and they target boys. They target boys here. They target them because we've trained our boys not to share. You can be happy or you can be angry. That's it out here in the world. And they know that if, I'm a 16-year-old boy, I'm a walking hormone with arms and legs, and some pretty girl sends a picture to me and we start that talking right back and forth, immediately get that connection. And she sends me a picture and asks for one in return. I'm a 16-year-old boy, I got hormones racing through my body. I'm going to send the picture and then right back. There's there's so many cases about this. My right back. You either need to send me money, you need to send me more pictures. I now own you. I'm a 16-year-old kid.
Well,
I
and I
don't
think
know how to process that. And I can't go to my
the
mom.
misnomer too,
Yeah, yeah.
that the 16 to 20-year-old or even 25 young adults, um, that just because they're tall and adult size doesn't mean they're not vulnerable
Mhm.
or college students.
Yeah,
And we
they're
need to be
not done.
conversations.
Yes. Yeah. We have to have this has to like become kind of like table talk. Like, do you remember when the OJ Simpson case came out? Nobody talked about domestic violence until that case. Now
That's a good
it's
point.
now it's a topic. This is, now I'm not going to say anybody famous. I don't want this to happen to anybody, which is why we're so committed to doing prevention education. I have friends that are survivors. They've been out of the life for 40 years and they're still dealing with trauma. This is lifelong trauma. So I get it's an uncomfortable topic and I get it's a little heavy, but we got to choose our uncomfortable. You can be uncomfortable for, 60 minutes and watch a video and then start a conversation with your kids. And you can even say, this is weird for me too, but we got to have this conversation
Absolutely.
or something else worse. which is far more uncomfortable and life-changing forever. So, it's really about empowering our kids to understand their value and how important they are, especially in the nation. We want to keep our culture, we want to keep our language, we want to keep our arts, we want to keep our sports, we want to keep that stuff going. In order to do that, we have to have children. In order to have children, they've got to be protected and kept safe. So we have to have these conversations as uncomfortable as they are,
Well,
because
we're
it
Cherokee
will save
women.
a
We're
life.
used to uncomfortable and working through.
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay, I took several notes, and there's going to be a written story, but you're going to send me more stuff. Is there anything else before we close up today that you want to share? And this won't be the last time. We'll have you back on,
Hmm.
especially if there's an important legislation, and we're trying to tighten up our pathways about how news releases that people want out can get on our network.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have some follow-up action items. But what else would you like to share with our families?
Yeah. So, you matter. Don't ever think you don't matter. It's really easy in this world to feel like you don't belong, to feel like you don't fit in, and feel like you don't matter. And every single time we stand in front of a group of kids, it's the first thing we say. It's like, this is a conversation. We want to hear what you have to say because you and your voice matters. I don't care if you're
And
2 or 92. You matter. And talk to someone. If there is something happening, pick up the phone and talk to someone. Like, there's some good resources in Oklahoma, and I'll share those too. But we've got some, you can always call the National Missing Kids Hotline. You can always call 911. You can always call 211. You can always call the National DV Hotline. There is someone on the other end of the phone waiting to make sure you're okay. So,
And
yeah.
you have all those resources on your front page of Paving the Way Foundation, right?
Oh, no, no, no. I'll send them to you.
Okay,
I will
perfect. Because
send
I
a
want to,
whole page to you. It's a whole list. Yeah.
okay. So, um, I grew up at large outside of the Cherokee Nation. I didn't have your experience of being adopted out, and you come from an incredible family. So I'm so glad when you were added into my extra crew. Um, I always like telling our at large stories because we're doing incredible work as Cherokee people wherever we live. And you're an example of that, Jan.
Thank
And
you.
so thank you for
Thank
being
you.
part of my life and
Mm,
sharing this incredible information to help empower our families and our youth to be safer out there.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Because we
Especially
know
with
it's a tool,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
safe.
This is like a little indie workstation. It's incredible. And it can be used for bad too. So, yeah, we're here, we're around, we're not going anywhere. Um, we've trained all over the country. We've trained out at the Cheyenne River Tribe. We've trained at the Lakota Nation. We've trained at Rosebud. We've trained at, out in Arizona, the Navajo and Pima and Apache tribe. So, they're my people, right? You're my people. All my
It
people are.
just dawned on me. Next time you're home, if we can figure this out, Cherokee 411 would love to host you having a training session for our local families.
Love that. I would
So
love that. I would love that.
look for more information on Cherokee 411. You'll be
Absolutely.
included in our email newsletter and on the website and our socials. But Jan Wadeau, for being here with us today, you are doing the creator's work, and we'll
Thank you.
keep you in our
Yes.
prayers and all the families and the people you impact. So if you have a story to tell, let us know. But to our listeners on Cherokee 411, until we see you again,
join the conversation. Discover stories and insights that matter to you. Subscribe to Cherokee 411 with Cara and stay connected with independent media, real, relevant, and unfiltered.